Fozia is here. Okay.
Yes, Richard.
So,
yes, hello, I'm here.
Okay. So welcome everyone to session 2 of this mentoring teacher research stories of mentoring teacher research conference.
Stories.
So just like in session 1, we're going to have five different stories, 5 minutes each, and we'll be a little bit strict with timing so that we can have good discussion afterwards. So there'll be plenty of time for discussion, questions and answers and discussion. And please, as you listen to the stories, you can look at the posters if you like, but we are not going to share the posters. And okay, Ernesto, can we mute microphones?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, we're not going to share the posters. We're just going to look at each other in this room. So feel free to open your cameras if you like. We want to have a nice feeling of being in the same place together. And we're going to have stories from Seden, who's from Turkey, and Fozia from Pakistan, and myself. We co-mentored a group. We'll have a story. Then Afak, Umar, and Zainab from Pakistan, from the same place. Suchita from India, and Tasnima, Bangladesh. Yes, but we need to mute the microphones if we're not speaking. So maybe you could help with that, Ernesto. Okay, so when we're speaking, we can unmute. Let's begin with Seden. 5 minutes over to you, Seden.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Hi, dear colleagues. I am Seden Erademir Tuyam from Turkey. I work at Çay University in Tarsus, Mersin as a teacher educator in ELT department and a senior lecturer at the Department of Translation and Interpreting. This is my story, meaning I'm the protagonist. And the object of desire of my story is my love for teaching, my aim to improve the pedagogy of whatsoever I teach, whichever level my learners are. There are also my confidence in my story. They are my 4 PhD students in the ELT PhD program at Çay University in 2022 to 2023 fall semester. I really consider these PhD candidates as wholehearted, open-minded, and I will always feel grateful for their dedication to their jobs, their loving kindness, and their endless respect for my authority and expertise as their course instructor. So as the story is told, as an English language teaching educator who advocates teacher research, mentoring, and continuing professional development in English language teaching, I faced a challenge when I was assigned to teach the language teacher education and professional development course. Because of having received a theory-based training as a PhD candidate back in the year 2000, I encountered something like a blind spot that hindered my ideal to bring about meaningful transformation in my PhD students. So as I said, the gap between training, the theory-based training as a PhD candidate and my current teaching that prioritized criticality and reflexivity over the years made me think. To me, the PhD candidates should be critical thinkers and be able to reflect on the limits of language education in their own context from a global perspective. And they need to keep growing in their researcher identities in order to become internal experts in their own context instead of being external experts. So I, following the great Indian leader, Indira Gandhi, I just taught this saying, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. So I considered possible conflicts before taking action, set my expectations, made some decisions. And formally, I prepared a syllabus and assigned the responsibilities like designing tasks and rubrics for formative evaluation, let me say. When we started the course, I tried to empower my students, ask their opinions on the tasks that we could involve in our course content. I also asked them the possible ways of assessment and get them to collaborate with me on the molding of the course objectives. So we made modifications on the syllabus, considering their suggestions. We followed Kumarava-Divello's CARST model and his book 2012, and it became our inspiration. You can have a look at my poster and see some further details. My student mentees made some explorations in their own context as part of their roles as language teachers. And as the mentor, I supported them with my dialogic approach in the process by facilitating their inquiries in their discussions, and constructive feedback I gave to the narrative reflections they wrote based on their exploratory projects covered in each module. They analyzed articles to their realized challenges and gained a deeper understanding by giving feedback and asking critical questions to one another for possible change. I had some fears not finding the right book, some supportive articles while designing the course content. And I also feared that my PhD students would not respond or could not respond to the critical reflection tasks they were demanding, or align themselves with the pace of the course, because it required their contribution. Or could I handle making changes to meet my students' needs and wants if I feel any exigencies on my way? And having a clear conscience, obviously, it is one of the things I prioritize in my whole life. In terms of successes, they're smiling faces, I know. And well, we had many gains altogether. If you follow the poster, you can read about them.
Thank you,
Or we
Sezen.
can talk about them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So that's fine. So thanks very much. And now it's over to, anyway, you introduce me.
Just a minute. It's so
Okay.
sudden. Okay, I'll do that, Richard. Yeah. Okay, now the stage is to Feyza, Samim, and Richard
Fozia.
Smith. Yes, Samim, sorry.
Thanks. Fozia.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Fozia, thank you.
Thank you very much. As you can see that there are two mentors in this story, Fozia and Richard. So we'll be telling our story more as a conversation between the two of us. So there'll be two narrators for the story. First of all, just to quickly introduce myself, I am working at Doorbeen, which is an NGO in Pakistan, and it is working towards improving the quality of teacher education in Pakistan. We've adopted a government elementary college of education under the government's public-private partnership scheme. And amongst other things, I'm responsible for supporting research and professional development in this college.
Okay, so I accepted an invitation from Fozia, who I've known for more than 15 years, to co-mentor a group of 9 teacher educators working at this College of Education to do exploratory action research. I'll call that EAR from now on, exploratory action research. So Fozia would be doing the face-to-face mentoring based in the college, and I would be interacting with them online from the UK.
The project ran for almost a year, September 2022 to March 2023, and it culminated in the teacher online conference. It was a pilot project for the college, but there were two main aims. And we wanted, first of all, for the teacher educators to engage in the research. And then subsequently, the same teacher educators would be mentoring teachers, student teachers to do their action research in their four-year B.Ed program after having this experience of EAR. One thing that was very prominent in the project was there was a lot of institutional support in terms of reduced workload for the participants, getting bonus points for research in their annual performance reports. Another interesting thing about this project was that only some of them were teacher educators for future English teachers. We had teacher trainers for math, science, social studies, and research methodology.
Okay, so I introduced EAR to the 9 teacher educator participants through 3 webinars in total at different points in the process. And we also shared the handbook for exploratory action research that I co-wrote with Paolo Rebiedo, and also uploaded some other teacher research resources into a shared electronic space in Microsoft Teams.
However, another interesting feature was that most teacher educators in this college had already completed their research project or thesis for advanced degrees. So they already had some prior conceptions about what good research is all about. So for example, in the face-to-face sessions that I had with them, they seemed to find it difficult to embrace the ER model, which they felt was simple, probably not rigorous enough for undertaking research. For example, they wanted to often do large-scale surveys and use quantitative methods and present it in graphs, even if there were small sets of qualitative data. Richard and I did try to address this issue as we went along, though I'm not sure if we could actually resolve it completely.
Yeah, so in my webinars, I stressed that EAR's practitioner research model doesn't necessarily follow the norms of the more academic research, more positivistic research that these teacher educators seem to be more familiar with. I also had one-to-one sessions together with Fawzia in Microsoft Teams, where we could discuss with the participants what they were planning. And we tried to rein in some of their more ambitious ideas and focus attention on their own questions as teacher educators, rather than generalizing about things. And I thought these sessions were quite successful.
While Richard provided remote mentoring in a more structured manner, of course, due to the constraints of time difference and the availability, everyone's availability, I, being based in the institution, was able to provide more informal and ongoing needs-based support, which the participants said that they found quite helpful. All 9 participants, we are happy to share with you, completed projects and presented them, as I said earlier, at a teachers' research online conference, as well as internally to their colleagues in the college. In the end of project, participants said that there'd been a good balance of structured and more informal support provided to them, even though they often felt that they'd been unable to complete their work on time due to competing institutional priorities.
Okay.
We've been getting back
Okay. Okay. So we can't hear Fawzia, so shall we mute
a lot more time. Overall, it is close to 5. It's 4.30, Richard. I've got my stopwatch running, so probably we can just go a couple of more steps.
No, let's finish there, Fawzia, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. We invite you to look at the poster for our fears and moments of joy, and maybe we can discuss it in the time that we have later on.
Okay. Okay, so now we are going to introduce 3 of the teacher educators who Fawzia and I, were mentoring, and they are going to talk about their experience mentoring some of the student teachers in the same institution. So over to Afak, Umar, and Zainab.
Thank you, Dr. Richard. I'm Afak Ahmad, and along with me is Umair and Zainab Muiz. All of three us are from the Government Elementary College of Education. And as Richard mentioned, we were for the first time mentoring student teachers. So the context is very unique that the student teachers were unaware of the action research, though they have some theoretical understanding, but they were going for the first time. And they were doing their practicum as well as action research. The another thing that is unique about the context is that the Pakistani public schools does not have that culture of research. So when you go there and you do some observation or research, the teacher will see you as evaluators, not as researchers. And when these students went to the schools, we find that these students are struggling in many ways. So for example, they are feeling that our intervention will fail and that there is a fear among them to defend their problem statements. And so, for example, they were unable or feeling difficult to absorb the feedback that they were receiving. So among these many problems, Omer will now explain about the main issue that we are addressing here.
Yeah, thank you, Afaq. So as Afaq has already described that it's a government school context in Pakistan, and there are many problems that these student teachers encountered because it was the first time that they were conducting action research. But the major issue that came up and that was common across many students, and which is going to be the focus of this presentation, was that student teachers found it hard to respond to the changes in what they had conceived as their original research problem. So and I will share two stories which will illustrate that this issue. So for instance, in the case of the first student, let's call the student X. She in her initial exploration, she found out that students that her students were struggling with understanding the conceptual underpinnings and the meanings behind algebraic equations and expression. So her initially identified issue was that the problem is in meaning making. And she assumed that students were fluent with the procedures of algebra. They were good with the techniques. They just struggled with understanding the underlying concepts and the meanings. And so she went in with that assumption, and later on in her action research process, she realized that even procedurally the students were struggling a lot. So her assumption got challenged there, and she became very anxious because of that stumbling block that she faced. And then there's the story of another student, and I'll call that student Y, who had a similar issue. She in her case, it was just that her original research problem got kept evolving. So initially she diagnosed that the problem was that students have an issue with understanding mathematics story problems in the English language. And she thought that the issue is confined to language of instruction, and she just switched from English to Urdu. And with Urdu explanations, she found out that students were able to make sense of algebra story problems. But then later on, when she transitioned into the teaching of geometry, she realized that even explanations in Urdu were not working. So, and again, she became anxious that she thought that the problem that she had initially identified, that diagnosis was not correct somehow. That was what she was anxious about. And so the way we, the mentors, responded to these two problems and many other problems such as these was that, of course, first and foremost, we had to provide emotional support and, reassure the students that it was okay to go back in circles and, and it's perfectly normal for an action research to have an evolving problem. And so or maybe the problem was static, but your understanding of that problem kept evolving with time as you explored the problem in greater depth. And so we told them that it is a natural part of the action research process. It is not a hurdle, and so that helped us guide our mentees into a direction where, for instance, the first student, she realized that addressing prior knowledge gaps was part of her intervention, and the other student Y, was able to brainstorm other potential hurdles in the way of story problem comprehension. So she later realized that for geometry, there was an issue of visualization also. So in addition to using Urdu explanations, she also started to use physical models and pictorial models and other visual aids.
Okay.
And
thank you so
Yeah.
much. I think Zainab has a part to talk on.
Yeah.
Could you?
So I'll just
Briefly.
thank you, Umair.
We are over
I think Umair has
time.
briefed us very well about our research. I'll just add on to what we are, what was our learning from this particular study that we did, and what was our students' reflection at the end. So basically, we as mentors learned that we had to basically learn perseverance and patience to teach our students to be patient with their own research problem and let it evolve the way it is evolving. And we also learned, there was a lot of clarity about our own understanding of action research during this process while we were helping our students. We even were able to question our own practices at times and, redefine a lot of things that we were doing as mentors, and we were build confidence and satisfaction ourselves when our students were able to solve their problems and they were able to understand that where the issues are. So when we were able to help them, so that actually brought us a lot of satisfaction and confidence within ourselves, because this was our also it actually helped us also develop with them over a period of time. And secondly, our students were also were able to they were able to critique their own pedagogy. They were able to understand more about understand action research as a tool to solve classroom problem, not as something that only investigates or not investigate problem into somebody else's classroom or help somebody else. It's just they're able to conclude that it is something that will help them solve their own problems within their classroom. So I think that was the best part of this. So this is it from our side. Thank you
very much, Zainab. We will ask you further questions in our discussion part. Now, our mentor, Sushita Mahorkar, is going to talk about her own experience.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Namaste from India. Am I audible?
Yes, Sushita,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my story started 3 years back in 2019 in the COVID time. And I'm here to present my story about my mentoring teacher research project, which took place in 2019 to 2020, where I mentored a team of 25 teachers and 15 of them have presented well. So I basically want to thank Richard Smith sir and his team, and along with him, I would like to thank my then boss, late Shri Subhash Kamar sir. And with your permission, I'd like to share my story. So yes, my challenge was that to maintain the communication, to enhance the communication. And I thought that asking better question would be the best tool for me to improve the communication, as well as to help my mentors understand their context better and to understand what exactly they want in their classroom and what they are understanding about the context they are facing. So as my colleagues, the prior presenters have said that they have the other notions in their head and they explore something else and they found out something else. So this was the same scenario at my side, and the teachers were from far and away, and we have a remote communication. So yes, to save the time and effort, what I did is firstly I set a round of meeting with one-on-one meeting, and then I took down the notes. Then I roughly chalked out few questions like suggestive questions or more elaborative questions, understand checking questions. And then I set a second meeting. I started with celebrating their own works and then asked them few questions. So in that way, I channelized our discussion. Thirdly, what I did is that I read about their ER topics, because to give them suggestion or to understand their scenario better or what exactly they could do in their classrooms, I need to prepare myself, because I'm not a Mr. Know-all or Miss Know-all. So what I did is that after the first round, I also started reading about their exploratory action research questions so that I could help them better, maybe. And yes, with that, I started doing my mentoring, and I found that allowing the time is the best tool. Yes, asking questions require a lot of things: awareness, social emotional awareness of your mentees. You need to be aware about the context, the profile of the learners, of your mentee teachers. Along with that, you have to be very open-minded. And as I had talked earlier, the cultural issues. We live in India, and the culture changes from every 12 miles. So yes, we need to understand that yes, I need to understand that the contexts are different, the profiles are different, the learners are different, and their cultures are different. So I found that waiting time is the most powerful tool that a mentor could have. And he should be ready with the anticipated and unanticipated questions from the counterpart. That is, your mentee has to be allowed to ask you counter questions. And for that, I shared a few of the resources which Richard Smith has also shared with us about how to ask better questions. In his book also, there are a few pages related to that. So I particularly asked my mentee teachers to read them so that they would be able to think before they share with me, and have a ability or inculcate the habit of asking what and why type of questions before we set a meeting. And I think that helped a lot, because now my mentee teachers are thinking twice, and they before saying something, they ask why I do think so, or what I mean by saying such and such thing. So I think this had developed a good communication, and it saved the time. Yes, that's all from my side. I think there are so many things I want to talk right now, but I'm not sure whether the time is there.
Thanks, Sushita. We can carry on in the discussion part. Thank you very much for this wonderful story.
Thank you, everyone.
And I think, yes, our final speaker, mentor, is Tasnima Akhtar. Tasnima, the screen is yours. Would you like to share your story with us?
Thank you very much, Sadan. Am I audible? You hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Thank you. So I'm sharing my poster in the chat box in case anyone is interested to see it. So yes, I'm Tasnima Akhtar, and I'm not going to share my experiences of mentoring here today, but I'm going to share my experiences of and reflections on setting up and leading a mentoring teacher research project in Bangladesh, and that's with TESOL Society Bangladesh Research SIG. I'm the convener of the SIG, so I'm leading this project while also living abroad, not in Bangladesh. I'm in London. So a bit of background first. So the project's timeline is like September 2022 to June 2023. However, setting up the project took a considerable amount of time. We had a couple of meetings and then reiterations and other things. And finally, I had a one-to-one meeting with Richard Smith last year in July. So he encourages to start the project first, and it's better if you start with a small scale, in a small scale. So with a small number of participants, I mean mentees or mentors. So thank you to Richard that we could start finally. And we started the journey in 2020 to September and is continuing. We started with 4 mentors. All of them are university teachers, including me, and 3 of them are senior teachers, and they are in the Central Committee of Teachers Society of Bangladesh, and just the convener of their ReSIG. And Richard Smith is with us as an external supervisor to oversee the overall project and give us encouragement whenever needed. So where we are, at this moment, we are done with our exploratory phase. So it was designed, it was based on the design of exploratory action research. So our all 10 mentees, they're done with their exploratory phase. So the moments of joy is that when the mentees first time meet Richard Smith, so it was like mentees meeting Richard Smith and sharing their research design for kind of approval and validation. So it was very encouraging for them, and then they could complete their exploratory phase. I mean, all of them, all 10 mentees. So this was very empowering for themselves. And finally, they also attended the Teacher Research Online Conference in March, like many of us. So 6 of them actually joined this conference, and they feel very, very motivated to carry on doing further exploratory action research. Now we are in our action phase, but the thing is, only 3 teachers, they're doing their action phase, and these 3 teachers are basically primary teachers mentees. None of the tertiary teacher mentees actually survived. They left for various reasons, like teaching commitment, or as some of you are saying that, okay, higher education level teachers can be little demotivated, or I mean, not that motivated, probably because they have some experiences of doing research and they have their own different types of research design, as some of you were saying, like Fozia, that quantitative design. So for various reasons, they are not continuing with us, but 3 of the primary teachers are doing action phase. Action phase. Now, on reflection, I can say that we can overcome the challenges of mentees motivation if we just focus on the primary mentees probably. And another thing is the timeline can be a flexible one, so we can adjust in terms of any leave or any burden for the. But still there is, because still we do not know what is the fate of the mentoring teacher research project we are doing in terms of what is next. It is because there is a lack of communication among the mentors now. And as I said, I'm living abroad, and other 3 mentors are in Bangladesh, and they are in the central committee of the main association. I'm just the convener of the ReSIG. So kind of, yeah, lack of communication or motivation or conflict of interest, whatever it is. So I'm not quite sure what is going on next time. I'm really happy that at least 3 mentees are with us doing their action phase. And I will say this is a successful launching. I mean, the first project is successful in terms of how much they have done, in which stage they are in. And as I said, probably in future, we can just continue with the primary mentee teachers. So many of the problems are kind of solved, but the only thing is still remaining, when and how are we carrying out our next MTR project? I mean, mentoring teacher research project.
Thank you very much.
With the TESOL-BD ReSIG, or another platform, the bigger platform, probably TESOL Society of Bangladesh, or it needs a platform of its own.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. It's great efforts that we spent for our dear teacher mentees. Richard, over to you. I think we need to start the discussion.
Sure. Okay. So we've heard from, let's just remind ourselves, we heard from Sezen with her PhD students. So, I mean, in the first session today, we were stressing how different kinds of situation are that we find ourselves in mentoring. Sezen's together with her students, but these are PhD students, right? And Fawzia and I were also talking about a maybe slightly unique or different kind of situation, which is mentoring teacher educators. And we then moved to some of those teacher educators themselves who are mentoring student teachers who are training to become teachers. So you see, we've already got some quite different situations of mentoring.
Exactly.
And in several, you know, in these cases, I think we were all of these three cases, we were wondering what kind of research, what images of research are in teachers' minds, or what sorts of how are these images a barrier? How can we have a different conception of research in people's minds who maybe have a particular conception? Even ourselves, if Saden was emphasizing that we come to this experience with our own preconceptions of what we should be doing in terms of research. So this was interesting to have these three different cases together. Then we had Suchita talking about mentoring, and I think talking about question asking, very important part of mentoring. What kinds of questions do we ask? And that was very interesting focus. And then we had finally Tasnima going the other way, Suchita was focusing very much on the micro interaction that we have in mentoring. And then Tasnima is talking from a big scale, you know, how do we set up a project to engage mentoring, to have teachers doing teacher research. How can we make a project sustainable in general? So these are really important issues, all of these. I wonder if anybody would like to respond or ask any questions. If you do, maybe Ernesto, we should also stop the recording now, because